Welcome back everyone, I'm K-Plays Games, this is EVE Online, I'm in a Vargur, but it is not time to run a level 4 mission. In fact, it's time to bring our level 4 library to a close. We've been going for quite a long time, we've run many missions. There are some missions I have not done in this series, such as Enemies Abound and Smash the Supplier and quite a few other ones. Why have I not done these? A, because I run missions in the wrong place to be offered them, because some missions are only offered in certain empires, and B, I would refuse to do these missions anyway because of the heavy faction standings hit that you take for running them. Because I like having all 4 faction standings rather high. I've worked very hard to get all my faction standings above 5, so I can run any level 4 mission anywhere in the game, and I'm not going to put that in jeopardy by running one mission and losing up to 1.5 or 2%, which is absolutely huge. That's a huge big hit to my standings, and I'm not going to do that. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, I've been keeping track of everything. As you know, at the end of the videos I have been putting up the results and I have tabulated them into an Excel spreadsheet. So let's have a look at that, shall we? And here it is, isn't it glorious? Lots of happy colours. Right, let's discuss what we have here. These are all the 29 missions which we have done in this series. We've done them all once each. Here we have the agent pay we got for each mission, the time bonus we got for each mission, the bounty payments we got for each mission, the loot and salvage we got from each mission, loyalty points we got. The total here is the total of the agent pay, the time bonus, the bounty and the loot. Because as I said in each video, no isk value was assigned to the loyalty points. And if you watched the previous video which I released on this channel, which was the loyalty points guide, you will know that this is difficult to do because the isk per loyalty point ratio changes all the time depending on market. So I have not included that in the totals. And of course we have the runtime in minutes, which is how long it took us to do each mission. Now let's talk about loot and salvage. This, of course, as I said, was from one run of each mission, and as we know, loot and salvage is somewhat RNG. Every single mission will have slightly different loot and salvage every time you run it. It will of course be averaged over time, so you will, if you ran each mission 50 or 60 times and kept track of the loot you got each time, you will of course find an average, but I don't have time to do that. If I was to run these 29 missions 50 times, it would take me all year, and I've got better things to do with my time, to be honest. Because as we know, sometimes you can get the warp clutch warp generators, and they're worth 4 or 5 million each. They can skew your results, and some missions have random loot drops. These are the ones with these hashtags here. Angel Extravaganza in room 4 always drops a random skill implant, which is a 3% implant. Sometimes this implant is worth 1 or 2 million, sometimes it's worth 20 to 30 million. So obviously that will seriously change the loot value here. But of course, if we ran that mission 50 times, we would find an average. And the bounty on Angel Extravaganza will change as well. This is the full bounty from a full clear, which included the bonus room. I don't usually do the bonus room because most of the enemies in there are elite, it takes far too long to kill them, and you don't really get any benefit other than a little bit more bounty, and I'd rather just not do the bonus room and go and get another mission. Because, as we see, the runtime that we had on Angel Extravaganza was 34 minutes, and that's rather too long. I think a good 10 minutes of that would just be the bonus room on its own. So I would rather reduce the bounty and loot a little bit, but reduce the runtime by a lot. So Angel Extravaganza is highly variable. If you do the bonus room, it's going to increase your runtime, but will increase your bounty and loot, and the implant you get will also affect the loot. Damsel in Distress and Right Hand of Zazmataz feature Zor. As we know, Zor always drops an implant. He has 2 variations of this implant. There is Zor's Navigation Link, and there is Zor's Custom Navigation Hyperlink. The link is worth about 4,000 isk. The hyperlink is worth about 70 million, that's 70 million. So obviously if we had found that, this loot would not be saying 8.2 million, it would be saying 78.2. But it's a very rare drop, simply because there are 2 missions in which that NPC spawns. So because you have a high chance to meet that NPC, because these missions are drawn all the time. Damsel in Distress, Right Hand with Razzmatazz, you will be handed these missions all the time. So because you have lots of chances to kill Zor, the chance of him dropping his implant is really quite low. But he does drop it sometimes, and when he does drop it, it's a really nice surprise. So again, if we had run both of these missions 50 times each, we probably would have found his implant once or twice, which would push up the average loot. Dread Pirate Scarlet is another one which is highly variable, not just because the enemies are somewhat randomised each time, but because if you use a ship which has high volley damage like artillery, you can actually kill Scarlet herself twice, and she is worth 5 million isk. On the run we did on this series, I used an autocannon fit and I was not able to kill her, so this bounty is actually 5 million less than it should be. Because I usually do use an artillery fit just to make sure I get that extra bounty from her. And Worlds Collide, last but not least, has very variable bounty and loot. Because, as we know, there is a chance for a faction battleship to spawn in either of the 2 divergent rooms you take from the first room. I have never found any good loot on these faction ships, but they are faction ships, they are commanders, so sometimes they could drop good things, and that will of course skew your loot. Of course, another thing to note is that every single mission can be blitzed. All of these figures, all of the bounty and loot are from full clears, and you don't have to do a full clear. In fact, in Dread Pirate Scarlet, you can one-shot her in room 2, and that's mission complete, and then leave. And you will miss out on all this bounty, all this loot. You won't get her bounty again because you've killed her already, but your runtime will be reduced to something like 7 minutes. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All of these figures here are for full clears, which is why the runtimes are quite high. The runtimes can be slashed significantly by just blitzing missions, but of course you'll be losing out in the bounty and loot, but you will of course get your agent pay, time bonus and loyalty points. Right, with all these caveats out of the way, let's have a look at all these lovely coloured bars over here. This isk-per-hour, I have included loyalty points. What I have here, down here, is an isk-per loyalty point. I have just input 1000, but if say I got 2000, when I press enter you'll see that all of the isk-hour and isk-hour no loot will change. There they are, they've all changed because I know how to spreadsheet, but I'll just leave it conservatively at 1000. So assuming we get 1000 isk per loyalty point, this isk per hour is the total plus 1000 times this loyalty point divided by the runtime multiplied by 60 minutes to give us an isk per hour. So let's filter this from largest to smallest. And now we have some nice clear results and a lovely gradient of colour. So as we see, according to our one run, which was a full clear, and according to the loot we got, Buzzkill is the best isk per hour, followed by Mordu's Folly, and Gone Berserk, Right Hand of Razzmatazz, and Vengeance. And remember, Right Hand of Razzmatazz, he didn't even drop the good implant. This is up here simply because it only took 7 minutes to smash everything. So we had an effective 159 million isk per hour running that, which is quite nice. Now of course, because the loot is highly variable, I have made this other column which strips all the loot out. So this is literally just the agent pay, time bonus, bounties and loyalty points. So if we strip the loot out and filter them, it now looks like this. I mean, there is one big aberration here, and it's Mordu's Folly, because almost all of the value in Mordu's Folly comes from tags which drop in the mission. 78.9 million isk worth of them to be precise. So if we were blitzing missions and not looting them, we would miss out on all of this, and it would drop it from 208 million an hour to 44.9. So if we were not looting and simply blitzing, Gone Berserk and Buzzkill are still right up here as some of the best at 97 and 92 million isk per hour. And Attack of the Drones, Unauthorized Military Presence, Worlds Collide are up here, but of course usually you build loot, so I'd rather go by this column. And of course the worst mission for both loot and not looting is Jewel of Death, but even that is 49 million isk-per-hour in a maximum skilled Vargur doing a full clear and taking into account all the other caveats. So that's not too bad. So if we have a look at the averages, the average runtime of these 29 different missions, done one each, was 16 minutes. And the average earning was 111 million isk-per-hour. This has been a semi-scientific experiment, so we do know that if you do one run and do a full clear of every mission once in a maximum skill Vargur, you'll be earning somewhere around 111 million isk-per-hour. So this is a good counter to these ridiculous isk-per-hour claims, which you will see in help chat. Some people have claimed up to 350 or 400 million isk-per-hour from doing level 4 missions. So they're either got their mathematics wrong or they're just lying. You can earn that much if you are doing Anomic agent burner missions and refusing all other missions, but that's not really my bag, it's not what I do. So if you're running a normal missions in the kind of times that I was doing them, which are pretty good, then you'll be getting 111 million. If we were blitzing missions, then we would not be doing full clears, we would not be looting all the things. Of course, when you're blitzing, you should, of course, pick up things like Zor's wreck, just to have a look at which implant he dropped, and picking up the implant in Angel Extravaganza, just because it's always worth picking up. And there's a few other missions that have a few other individual wrecks that are worth looking at. Other than that, I wouldn't bother looting anything. So that's the results from our 29 mission level 4 library. I may pick this up at some point in the future. I may move home and try and run some variant missions, or I may just sink 6 months into actually running all of these missions 50 times and getting averages, and then we'll do all this again with an even more accurate isk-per-hour. But until then, that is the end of the level 4 library playlist. That's it, it's done. We might have a look at level 3 because we've been doing very high-end missions for a while. We've been doing level 4 epic arcs and level 4 missions for a while. Maybe we'll take a break and go back down to level 3 and explore it in Tech 1 battle cruisers and do the same thing and work out how much isk-per-hour we can get for doing that. Whichever I decide to do come back for that and do look after yourself until then. I will see you later.